Alright, so the NFL draft is coming up. Literally like 5 days away. But really, it starts today. Like weigh-ins, questions, like at least the wide receivers and the quarterbacks are arriving today. Running backs and O lines follow, and then you got linebackers, and then you got defensive backs. The positions will follow. They'll all coming in. They'll all be coming out on their selective whenever they do the training on the field, basically. But today's when they start arriving. And come Thursday, we'll start seeing the training on the field. We'll see bench press start the day before on a Wednesday. But this video is really what to expect at this year's NFL Combine. It is a pretty loaded class, so this year's NFL Combine could be a little bit more important like years past. Of course, every year the NFL Combine is kind of important in a way. It's either NFL teams want to question you and see like, hey, what'd you do wrong on this? It's basically just criticizing like, hey, what happened here? What's your favorite play? Blah, 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 blah. All that stuff that teams are interested about. Not really us fans to care about as much, but what the teams are really interested about. Also, you have the weigh-ins and the height and or the arm length. That's kind of important too, at least for a quarterback. Like hand size, they care about that a little bit. Also, they care about height somewhat, weight somewhat, especially for like if you're like a defensive end for a weight, they care about that. Arm length more for like on the offensive line or defensive line, they care about that. It's like a bunch of those statistics. So like sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes the NFL teams a bit like some teams are different than others. It's basically what people prefer, just like normal. So here we go. We're gonna start going position by position, like what we could see that really matters. So quarterback, like I talked about, it's really about the hand size, maybe a little bit about the height. Like Kyler Murray's height was a little bit worried to go. Height's not as big a deal as it has been in previous years, though. The big thing with quarterbacks, they kind of care about ball velocity a little bit more than what they care about usually, because ball velocity kind of translates a little bit if you can be a decent quarterback in the NFL, just because you need to get the ball there quicker in the NFL. That's kind of known around the league. If you can't get the ball, like, at least there in time, it's not going to work well for you. I think we've seen that around the league a bunch, but also, it's interesting to watch the quarterbacks run the 40. It's kind of funny at times. And also, you have the on-field drills with the accuracy. That's the other major important thing. So, things to look forward to for quarterbacks is really accuracy and the ball velocity, and maybe hand size or height or weight if you really care about that. And the other thing, just for fun, is the 40 time, because it's quite hilarious to watch them run it sometimes. Then on the running back, this varies from running back to running back, depending on what type of running back they are. This, like, height, again, really doesn't matter too much. Maybe a little bit. Weight can matter a bit, though, since, like, really depends, like, I don't know. It depends on what your 40 time is for your weight. Like, 40 time and weight kind of go hand in hand, because if you're, like, 180, running, like, a 4.6 or whatever, that's not too good. If you're 180, I want you running higher, and I want you running like a 4.4. Otherwise, we're gonna try to put you up to like 210. That's kind of how it goes with running backs, and especially for this year with running backs, this running back class is kind of stacked. The 40 is gonna be kind of important for them, so it's gonna be interesting to see how this all goes out. Really, for running back, you have the 40, the broad jump, the vertical, the 3-cone. Even bench can be somewhat fun to watch for a running back. Of course, you have all the generic stuff too, like weight and height, like I already said. But I'm excited to watch, especially the 40 times. It's going to be fun to watch for these. And the 3-cone, and of course, on-field drills. Can't forget about those. Okay, so once again, the wide receivers, kind of the same as the running backs this year. It's a deep class once again. And I got to say, I feel bad for one of these wide receivers, and Bryan Edwards, because he could really paid off if he would have been able to participate this and run 40 time. Hopefully he can make it for his college pro day, so he can show that like he can run a 40 there. If he can do that, it should help boost his draft stock back up. But it's going to hurt him not being at the NFL Combine, not being able to run or at least do any of the drills. I imagine he'll show up, do like the interviews, and be there for the generic stuff like the height, weight, all that stuff, hand size. Hand size is definitely more important here because big hands for a wide receiver pays off really well because you can make some very contested grabs sometimes or some one-handed catches if needed. So that can help a lot if you're a wide receiver. Also, height's kind of a little bit of an issue, especially if you're like 5'9". I feel bad because KJ Hamler's probably going to prove me wrong on that. But height's a little bit of an issue. They prefer you be a little bit taller than 5'9". But we've seen it work here in the NFL recently, especially with guys like T.Y. Hilton doing their thing. But you gotta be really crafty with your work, be able to run the routes really well, and know when not take the big hits. Like T.Y. Hilton's basically my example for that. But 40 time course is like a really good example this year. Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, anybody else I'm forgetting? The wide receiver from TCU, Jalen Reagor, should be fun to watch run that. KJ Hamler should be fun to watch run that. There's a lot of wide receivers that should be fun to watch to run the 40 this year. See like how they run it. Especially at wide receiver, you want a good 40 time. If you don't have a good 40 time, that kills your draft stock. So be on the lookout for some good 40 times or maybe some shockers. Because we saw that last year, especially with the Notre Dame wide receiver that I don't know his name too anymore. So, also we have vertical. Vertical is kind of an important one for wide receiver because, high point the ball is kind of important in NFL especially. Broad jump, it's going to be quite impressive. Three cone sometimes three cone can kill your stock. That's the example of DK Metcalf right there. Even though teams kind of messed up that one, then bench press kind of just for fun once again. It's cool to see wide receivers with a little bit of strength because if you have a little bit of strength, maybe they can move you inside the tight end. You can be that big slot that a lot of teams are moving on to looking forward to, especially in this year's NFL day and age and moving forward. Okay, so tight end. This is not a very top-heavy ended class. It's a solid class, though. Don't get me wrong. It's just not. You're missing that one star guy. Like if Noah Fant was here this year, that'd be that one star guy, and this would put a pretty damn good class in here. But it's not that good. But if you're doing round 2 to round 5, this is lower round 2, of course. But if you're doing lower round 2 to round 5, this is a pretty loaded class. So 40 times going to matter if you want to push your name up to that lower round 2. Of course, height, weight is probably going to matter, especially on tight ends. Your hand size is probably going to matter here. So be on the lookout for those. And of course, you have your 40 time like I was already talking about. Vertical kind of matters here. Bench press can matter somewhat. Some of these tight ends won't be used really as a tight end. Well, tight end in this day and age, basically, it's a big slot wide receiver almost. So some of them will be used different. Some of them actually can block. Some of them are probably going to kill their stock because they're 40, and some of them might be able to boost it. It's going to be interesting to see how these tight ends grade out. I'd be also looking into that 3 cone, and of course, you have the drills that they do with the quarterbacks. Same with the wide receivers. You have those drills that they're going to do. It should show, can they make this cut? Can they make this cut? Can they run this route? And it keeps going on. Offensive line. Height, weight, what is it? Height and weight kind of can matter because it really determines, are you on the outside or are you in the inside of my offensive line? I like how they put it all together, though, because it makes NFL teams really decide, do I want you on the outside of my offensive line or do I want you on the inside? Of course, also depends, where were you playing in college? Where were you playing in high school? I'm sure it's not too hard to learn a new position offensive line. I'm sure it is a little bit, but if you're in the NFL, you're kind of working for 3 months on that new position. You'll be a little rusty at first, but give it a year or so, you'll be used to it by then. And if you're going to be in the NFL, you probably should be able to adjust at least a little bit. Maybe you don't, but hey, what can I say? I don't really play offensive line in case you can't tell. But height, weight, hand size, and arms kind of going to matter here. They prefer people with bigger arms and bigger hand size, but it can work as we've seen years past. Also, the big one here, of course, is the bench press, as offensive linemen, of course, need to be strong. And the other one that's kind of important is like that 10-yard, the 10-yard split, basically, of the 40-yard dash. Just show me you can get, like, move quickly off the line, basically, is what I want to see. Other than that, I can really care about the rest, because 3-cone, 20-yard shuttle, really your whole 40 times, not really that important. It's impressive when you run a fast one, but I don't care too much about it. Your broad jump's kind of interesting, and your vertical's kind of interesting. I just like to see those numbers. But really what matters here is your 10-yard split and your bench press, and of course your genetics, whatever you have, hand size, arm size, height, weight, and your knowledge of the game, is knowing where you made a mistake, and like if you can move in between positions and be versatile on the offensive line. Okay, so I'm going to separate defensive tackle and defensive end, and I kind of put them in their own group, at least from my board of what I'm grading them as. In the actual thing, you'll see like edge defenders in with linebackers, and some edge defenders in with defensive linemen / defensive tackles, basically. It's kind of weird how they do it. I'd prefer like defensive tackle, defensive ends, linebackers, but whatever. I don't have a voice in this. So on my defensive tackles, I look different from my defensive ends a little bit. Because defensive tackles, I'm not looking for speed. I want to see your 10-yard split, not your 40-yard dash, really. Compared to my defensive ends, who I really care more about your 20-yard split-ish, not your 10-yard, because I like to see a little bit more burst off the edge from you than 10 yards. But defensive tackle 10, defensive end 20. And then I want to see your bench. I want to see your hand size, your arm. Basically same thing as offensive line. Height, weight, hand size. Let's see how that is. I like to see a little decent broad jump. Maybe vertical, just to be fun. 3-cone, see how well you can cut. But that's basically defensive tackles. Just 10-yard split. Everything else, like, genetically. And then defensive ends. Of course, like, I want to see your 20-yard shuttle. I want to see more. I want to see your broad jump. I basically want to see every drill at the combine, from your bench press, from your 3-cone, from your 20-yard shuttle, from your maybe even seeing the whole 40-yard dash, from your broad jump to your vertical jump, because it can determine if you can put that hand up, basically, and get a little jump for me to see, like, can you knock that ball down? Kind of the same with defensive tackles, like, a little bit interesting. And broad jump, kind of your explosiveness. Show me how explosive you are off that ball, basically. Also, the on-ball drills for both positions, defensive tackle and defensive end, are important for each of them, because all the on-drills here at the NFL Combine are really important. So, linebacker is a really interesting position, especially if you're in the NFL Combine, because there's no one in particular except for Isaiah Simmons that really separates from the pack. Patrick Queen's been put into that situation. I myself don't think he's really a first-round talent. I see what people see, but I think he's getting put into the first round just because of thin linebacker class. Like, we don't really have, like, a true number 2. I think he should be... I could see him, like, late, like, 30th, like, really late first round, like, early second, basically, where I would put Patrick Queen. Kenneth Murray's boosted a ton thanks to this thin linebacker class, though, because I think he's barely a second-round talent. But that's for another day, really. I don't really want to get into that too much, but linebackers, what's important, your height's kind of important for a linebacker, the same as the weight, because I want to see you be at least 200 pounds. 210s preferably, because I can put some muscle on you, put some weight on you, make you like 230, 240. That's good for the NFL. And preferably, 6 foot's kind of short for a linebacker, but I see where it goes. 6'1", 6'2". 6'2" is the preferable mark, but 6 foot will do, I guess. 5'11" is kind of like, But, of course, it determines what team you are. If you're a good player, you're fine, whatever. I've seen enough film. You can work at your size. It's one of those situations. Linebacker, 40-yard dash is going to matter. 3-cone will matter. Broad jump will matter. Vertical jump will matter. And bench press maybe will matter a bit, depending what type of linebacker I see you as. Depending, if you're not the fastest linebacker, I want to see you have a good bench. Show me you're at least strong at least, or maybe a good 3-cone. So I know you can make those good cuts. Also, your on-field drills for the linebacker really do matter, because if I see you you can bounce back in zone coverage really well, or if you're able to make that good read and see where that running back's gonna what hole he gonna pick. Linebacker's really good at you need to see where the play is going before it even happens if you're a linebacker. So cornerbacks, I gotta say cornerbacks are kind of like wide receivers this year, where it's a pretty you have your top guy basically. Here it's of course the Ohio State Jeffrey Okudah. Wide receivers has their 2 different top guys. But after that, you really have middle of the pack type. You prefer team preference type players. So here, 40-yard dash is going to matter. Some teams will care about that height. I don't think weight's too big of a deal, especially since I can put some muscle on you in the NFL basically. But height kind of does matter to some teams. Some teams prefer you if you're 6'2". If you're 5'9", you're probably playing slot. I don't really prefer you on the outside if you're 5'9". It's kind of what the Colts have right now, and their cornerback situation with their slot corner and Kenny Moore, who's probably, in my preference, I'd say he's probably one of the top 5 slot corners in the league. Of course, I'm a Colts fan, so maybe a little biased towards that, but I definitely think he's probably one of the top 5 slot corners in the league. But this should be a big year for some maybe round 2, round 3, or late round 1 guys. And you guys are probably fighting for a spot, maybe for a first round. So 40-yard dash, I want to see you do that. Vertical jump actually matters here too, because for a cornerback, you need to learn how to high point that ball. I want you, if you're trying to pick that ball off, you need to high point it, get that ball before the wide receiver, because if you miss, that wide receiver is gone. He's past you and probably scoring a touchdown. Broad jump's also really important here, because you got explosiveness off the wide receiver coming back at you, so you need to burst off that. Also 3-cone, so I can see what type of cuts you're making with the wide receiver. If you don't have a good 3-cone, you're probably not going to play much man-to-man. Probably more of a zone scheme guy. And then bench press is kind of just fun to watch. If you're more of a physical, tough man-to-man guy, if you have a good bench press, that's kind of interesting to see. And safety's kind of the same way as cornerback is. Vertical jump, I will say, is a little bit more important than what it is for cornerback, because you are a safety. And depending on what safety you are, if you're a free safety, I value that really highly. If you're a strong safety, maybe not as much, because you could be an in-the-box type linebacker, strong safety type player, one of those players. So some off-the-ball, some of those linebacker drills might be important for you, especially if you're playing, like I said, the off-the-ball linebacker, outside linebacker, in-the-box type safety position. So bench could matter to you. 40-yard dash could matter as well. And I don't think height matters as much here, but it still does matter. I prefer you 5'10", but also weight for safety is usually a little bit higher than it is for a cornerback, at least if you're playing strong safety. If you're playing free safety, it's probably basically the same as cornerback. But other than that, don't really have any preferences there. Then kicker, punter, of course. Who cares? Just make your kicks. That's all I gotta say. Make your kicks and get on with it. But that's kind of my preview of this year's NFL Combine. What drills to really look forward to. And since there are some deep classes in the cornerback position, thin classes in the linebackers, defensive end, defensive tackles, they're kind of just middle of the pack. It's a good class for those two. Wide receivers have a loaded class, running backs have a loaded class, and quarterbacks have interesting class, I would say. But there's nothing you have 4 guys that could possibly go in the first round, maybe 5. But that's arguable, of course. And maybe we even see more quarterbacks than we even expect. But, oh well. What's your guys' thoughts on this year's NFL Combine? What are you guys looking forward to? I've got to say, I'm most looking forward to Henry Ruggs' 40 time, especially because he could break that record, and that's going to be lit if he does. So, thank you guys for watching this video. Of course, you guys suggest for any other type of video, put that down in the comments below. Also, I'll be putting in my description my Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and Patreon. If you want to, go click on those. Go do whatever you want with those. Of course, just make sure to keep the sports week flowing throughout the day.